Good evening. Welcome to the Town Council meeting for Monday, December 9th, 2019. At this time, it is necessary for us to go into executive session related to the Woods subdivision litigation because an open meeting may have detrimental effects on the bargaining position of the town. I do also want to point out that any of our open meetings are also recorded as well. With that, I will entertain a motion for a roll call vote to go into executive session.
Second.
Moved by Councilor Donaco, seconded by Vice Chair Santos. So with that, Councilor Chines.
Aye.
Councilor May. Councilor Smith-Galvin. Councilor Donaco. Councilor Butt. Vice Chair Santos.
Yes.
And Chair Dombrowski. That was 7-0. We will now go into executive session, and we expect to resume with open session beginning at 7 p.m. Thank you. To the Town Council for December 9th of 2019. We are out of our executive session, and now we're going into our open meeting. I'd like to begin with a call to order now at 7:08 p.m. The first item on our agenda would be item number 2, which is the Pledge of Allegiance. We have a great group tonight. I would ask them to please, if you could, come up and stand at the tables. And welcome everyone. And this evening we have a great representation of a lot of our different fall sports teams from our high school. And so we have a number of different members. So I'll begin with the Wakefield dance team. The Wakefield dance team had a tremendous season this year, placing 4th in the entire Commonwealth of Massachusetts. So congratulations to you on that great honor. We have Adriana Manassian, Emily Pudva, and Olivia Featherston. I should also point out that Olivia is also a track star who just earned a track scholarship to URI, so congratulations on that. We also have our Wakefield cheer team tonight here, and we have Alana Willis, Julia Carino, and I should also mention that from our dance team we have Riley Porter as well. And from our wrestling team we have Captain Brock Johnson. And I think I've covered everyone. Again, congratulations on great seasons in your respective sports. You've all made Wakefield very proud, and we're proud to have you leading us tonight in the Pledge of Allegiance. So with that, if everyone would please stand.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Again, thank you all so much for coming. We really appreciate it.
Thank you.
I should point out we did have some representatives from some other teams who were not able to make it. Certainly, we congratulate all of our teams. And I know football team, for example, they have their banquet this evening, and so that's why they were not able to join us. But we had a great representation from our student athletes, so we appreciate that. Item number 3 on the agenda is attendance. I see that we have all 7 counselors in attendance, as well as Madam Clerk, our town administrator, and our town council. Item number 4 on the agenda is the approval of our meeting minutes from November 25th of 2019. I'll entertain a motion for the approval of those minutes as included in your packets.
Second.
Moved by Councilor Donaco, seconded by Vice Chair Santos. Any discussion? Seeing none, Council, the motion before you is the approval of the November 25th, 2019 regular Town Council meeting minutes. All of those in favor?
Aye.
The vote of 7-0, the motion carries unanimously. Item number 5 on the agenda is public engagement. This is the opportunity for members of the public to address the council. Madam Clerk, do we have anyone that has signed up this evening?
No one.
All right, no one this evening? Very content public. Item number 6 on the agenda is committee, board, and commission updates. I'll remind those watching at home that this is the opportunity for the town council to receive information and updates from our various boards, commissions, and committees as to what they're working on, projects, what they have done, and what they're looking at going forward. So this evening, I actually am pleased to be able to introduce the chair of our capital planning committee. So. Good evening to you, Frank Leone. Please, if you could have a seat, and then I appreciate the capital planning PowerPoint you have for us. So you'll be presenting this, and viewers at home can watch along as well. Thank you for coming.
Hi, everybody.
Okay.
Just a quick overview of about what's been going on with last year's approved items, and a little bit of what we're going to be doing. We're coming up in January, February before the next town meeting. One of these buttons must work, right?
Yep, there you go.
We'll start with the current members, active members, myself, Dan Clory, David Whitman, Tracy Cleversey, and Phil Renzi. Real good active part of Wakefield citizens here. Very involved and into what we do and what we have presented, and very detailed about as much as we can to get the items through. Just an overview of our schedule. Sometime in January, the DPW director gets all his recommendations from his boards, the departments, obviously down the bottom there, the police, the fire, the school department, the public works. Even the senior center, the library, and the recreation all give items, a wish list. And then it's over the weeks, over the months, the weeks in the meetings, we try to get it down to something within our budget. We've been very lucky over the last, how long have I been a member? For over the last 12, 13 years, that the budget has increased greatly. When I started, it was very small, and we had a lot of items carried over on the leases. Now I think our leases numbers is down. It's down a lot, and we can just purchase these items outright, and it saves the town some money on the interest. So along with the help, obviously, of the DPW director, we compile all the capital requests into a working spreadsheet. A lot of this is done by the director, Mr. Stinson and now Mr. Conway will do it. He was with us last year. Joe was with us last year, so it's going to be a smooth transition into this, and he understands our process very well, and he actually had a lot to do with everything we did last year. We submit the plan and present it before the council to get approved to go to the town meeting. Or before that, we do go to the finance committee to make sure they have no objections to anything that we suggest. Couple of updates of what we approved last year and what got approved at the town meeting. The fleet, the vehicles, Joe put this together for me. We didn't list exactly what everything was, but all the fleet items are ordered. There's only 3 awaiting delivery for the trucks, and everything else is in service. As he put there a note, some of the larger vehicles can take a longer time to get put together and get painted our very special Omaha orange. So sometimes that takes a little bit more time. The buildings, these items, most of these items are from last year. Some carried over from the previous year. The Doyle and Town Hall boilers, actually, it was noted by the DPW director that there was excess funds in the operating budget, so Rick was able to take some of those monies and carry it over, so we would, in the long term, save $19,000 in interest, because these are items that we take a lease on, so we do pay them out over 5 years, 3 to 5 years. It depends on what the item is. So by using the operating budget money that he had extra, we were able to save the $19,000 in interest over the next couple of years. The Doyle addressable fire alarm panel upgrade, where the little kids go to school now everyone's on, all the schools are on board with the fire department, so there's nobody left out, not in the dark, but they weren't connected to the town, but now they are. The town hall exterior and trimming and painting, a little bit of money there. The 5 Common Street ceiling and window replacement out back. The Yule Doyle underground oil tanks are gone, and the second boilers at the Greenwood and Dahlbeer School, they were pretty old, so they had to get the backups going so that they wouldn't be down in the wintertime. And then obviously the Civic Center, everyone's seen the Civic Center sign replacement, and if you've been inside the Civic Center, the new floor. That wasn't capital funds that got the floor, but a lot of the excess exterior, a lot of little things, stairs, some stuff around the walls and windows, capital money is used. If you don't remember, it was about $35,000. We just used it for improvements, so that if they needed it for the floor, they could have used it, but they didn't need to. It actually went under budget. I don't know the exact numbers, but the floor did come in under budget. In progress from last year's monies, we have the Vets Field Tennis Pickleball Court replacement. And as you can see, the survey and design is completed, and it's going out for bid this winter. The Blatz softball field, that's on here. That wasn't done with capital funds, but I think he just wanted to give us an update. Its design and layout are complete. The laser grading and the outfield turf and new grass planting are complete. The fence is currently being installed, and the completion date is for first pitch for the spring season for the girls. The water quality swale on Main Street at Quarter Street was a pretty big item because of the backups it had going into the lake. The survey and design are completed. It's going to be hopefully completed by the spring of next year. And the Greenwood School Playground, we'll be working on it. We'll have a committee working on it this weekend, this winter, to design similarly like we did to JJ Round and Maple Way, have a lot of input from the neighbors, and then have it put together. That'll be in the spring. Ending with that, our committee, with the monies we had, we do want to try and have a playground done every year. Could be anywhere from $100,000 to $200,000, depending upon the size and what needs to be replaced. So that's our intentions. Next year, we're looking at hopefully to get the Woodville, because that's the next one on our list. The Doll Bear is going to be there soon after as well, but we take all this into consideration, and we have, the good thing about our committee is we've got some older members and people, younger members, newer members with younger children who go to these schools, and they can tell us, they give us good updates on all the equipment and what needs it more, and then we just go out and visit the sites ourselves. But we do the best we can, giving our, just that we're volunteers, and we try to do what's best for the town. But that's it. So we'll have meetings beginning in January, usually about every 2 weeks. We'll get together before the town meeting, or before we have to present to the finance committee, and we get it down a little bit each more, and each week we get it down more, and then we get our final number that we have to hit, and we hit that number. We try our best to hit that number, and then we go with it from there. We do meet with the department heads from the police, being the police chief, the fire chief, the library comes in, the rec director comes in, and they tell us, and even the school department, they will come in as well, to tell us what they really need and why they need it, so that we're not just making a call on something that the school needs that we don't really know about. So we'll bring them in and have them describe it in a little more detail. But that's about it.
Okay. Thank you very much, Mr. Leone. This is very helpful. I'll turn it over to the council now. Does anyone have any questions or comments? Councilor Chines.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you, Mr. Leone, for both your work and the work of everyone else on the committee. It is a lot of work, and when you think about sort of the full set of needs that we have for capital projects in the town relative to the funding that we have, I know you guys spend a lot of time trying to wade through those projects. And I guess to that end, I was hoping you could talk a little bit about some of the criteria, some of the standards that the committee uses to assess competing priorities and assess the projects that come before you. What's the process? What are the decision points that you use to make some of those determinations? And as you talk through that, I'd also love to hear if there's anything that would be helpful to get from the town council or any of the other boards that would assist in that process.
Generally, it's, when we talk to the department heads, it's their needs. We see the list and we evaluate it before we talk to anybody. And then we obviously have the DPW director with us, and Mr. Mayo's there as well. So they already have a little insight on what's needed the most. Mm-hmm. So without them persuading us in any way, they just say, well, this might be a little bit more necessary at this point. So when the department heads do come in, we'll wait to see what they ask for, and then we'll ask them about these items as well. It's generally, if there's something really urgent on their lists, we'll give it to them. Mm-hmm. We'll approve it. But other than that, all our different backgrounds, we just use our knowledge to say, all right, does the Doyle School need this fire alarm system now, or does the high school need 2 AC units? Mm-hmm. We do our best. It could go either way sometimes. you know, it's always, we have a couple items that are on a plan, like the police department usually gets 3 new cruisers every year. Just, it's always been, it went from 2 to 3, 3 to 2 once in a while, but we just do 3 now, and keeps the chief very happy, and it seems to work for them. With the DPW, if there's an item where their wood chipper's broke and they need a new one, so they don't have to keep renting one every week, then obviously that's, it's not a hot item, but sometimes we face school items that are much more urgent for the kids than a wood chipper or something to that effect, but we have to take that into consideration. And with the high school especially, we have to evaluate what to replace so that we can hopefully someday have some, state funding for the high school without making it going over too much and making everything new in the high school, so we're not piecemealing a high school trying to make it look good. So items like that, we just do our best to evaluate, and honestly, we take the opinions, we highly regard the opinions of the directors. And obviously, the library, the chairperson comes in and talks to us and says, well, this is, the rugs are falling apart, people are tripping, and that's gets a little pushed up on the urgency, or the bricks are falling off the face of the library, we should replace those. But I mean, the only thing that you guys could do is, if you see something and it's on the capital list, say, hey, this might be a good time, a good year, if you have a couple extra dollars, to like the Civic Center sign. Some people all of the time for years were saying, that sign's falling apart, but it's only been a couple of years that that the town has obviously been there, with the rec department being there now. It was a little different before the town kind of took it over. But those are things that people see every day, especially when they're playing their basketball game for WBA, and now they can go in and see that the stairs are nice, everything's found out nice in there. So if there's something missing, our best input is from people who know that we're on the committee and think that we can actually do something about it.
Great.
I hope I answered the question, somewhere in there.
Absolutely.
Councilor Donaco.
Thank you. Frank,
Hi.
thank you very much. Nice presentation. So if I wanted to give a recommendation to the capital planning, how would I do that? Put it in writing?
I'd say just come to one of our meetings. We host the meetings, but obviously, in writing emails, not a problem at all. People who don't know don't know me, don't know how to contact, would probably just send something to the town administrator and put in a request like that, and then obviously they direct it the right way.
So I know we are now taking control over the Civic Center, and we're doing a great job of sprucing that up. One of my pet wishes for the building is to get the kitchen redone and make it usable to the full extent, in order to have caterers be able to use it when they rent the hall. It'd be a great source of income from the town end of it, if the hall could be used for a money-making avenue where it can't at this point. So if I wanted to rent the hall for a party, let's just say, and I hired a caterer, most caterers won't come in because they can't keep the food warm enough for the Board of Health. Okay? But it has to be maintained at 140 degrees, and there's no means of them doing it. The refrigerator needs upgrade, the oven needs upgraded, even the hot boxes to keep the trays hot. So something like that is where I would like to see capital money used, if possible. I don't know how much it would cost, but what's the process on something like that? So
The rec director, who's obviously now in charge, well, somewhat in charge of what goes out, you still have to go through the DPW building, the person in charge of the buildings, to walk through and do it. But obviously, the person there, he would be the one renting it out and would want something like that added. Then we'd just he'd have to get a quote and take care of, so they could bring the number and say it's gonna cost $120,000 to do that, or whatever. I'm just throwing the number out there. And then we'd have to compare it to, the Woodville school needs a new oven and that's $8,000, or the other schools need a new dishwasher to keep going. So that's, I think something in that aspect would be.
understandable.
Yeah.
All I'm looking for is to get it as a target.
Yes. Oh, I can put it on, I'm
So,
putting it
so
on the
would
target
Dan
list, yes.
McGrath be the one that would have to pursue to
Yes,
you?
Dan and Chris, they would, Chris is still in charge of the buildings, so,
Okay.
Dan would put that on his wish list. And we've had many conversations with Dan where I think that eventually he would like to be self-sustaining. And so obviously, having a kitchen increases your income. So something like that, there's gonna be a point where how much money are we gonna throw at the building? But if he's self-sufficient and he can do all this on his own, that would be.
It's just an idea from
Yes.
outside looking in,
It's a great idea.
outside looking in. But
I
thank
mean,
you
even
for-
if they were just warmers, they don't need new ovens, the cost, something to that effect.
I haven't been in that kitchen in like
Yeah.
maybe 7 years, so I couldn't tell you what condition the kitchen's in. But thank you for the
It's probably on
presentation.
lockdown anyway, so.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Other questions? I will say, picking up on that point, I think with the Civic Center, we've really just scratched the surface of opportunity there for us. And when we have opportunities like the kitchen improvement that could end up in generating revenue, I think that really plays into the self-supporting mission that we have now for that facility. And so it doesn't just enhance the facility, but it also provides us with, a way to be a little more budget neutral as well, which I think is great. So I think anything we can do to at least explore that as an option. I think to Councilor Donaco's point, there are a lot of events that could happen there that don't currently because of the deficiencies within the kitchen itself. So I think that would be great to at least explore. Councilor Smith Galvin.
Following up on that and the target list that you referenced, and thank you very much for your presentation. Is that a publicly available list that we have, or is it in your minutes, or how does somebody say, oh, this might be a good idea? Has anybody ever talked about it?
It's available at our meetings.
At the
I mean, we
meetings.
don't present it out at the website or anything
Okay.
until it's complete.
Okay.
There could be a lot of back and forth about, we get, if we have $2 million to spend, we'll start at 10 million. So there's a lot to get down there, which generally is taken care of by the DPW director, and to get it down there, talking to his heads of departments. But if it was open to the world, all right, so what do you think? And then we have all these people.
Oh, yeah, and that's not what I'm suggesting.
You'd
I was
have-
thinking, was there a list somewhere that
But no,
people
it's
could see
available.
what's been
You would,
debated in the
at
past?
our meetings, we'd share everything with everybody who come to the meetings.
Okay, thank you.
I mean, some people would say, why are we spending money on the Civic Center or the library?
Well, I'm sure there's
So
opinions.
If you, we do it systematically, we present it, and then it goes to town meeting, and if anybody has any problems with what we're spending the money on, or what we recommend to spend the money on, then they can do it. But there is opportunities for them to be part of the process, even though they're not on the committee.
Thank you.
I think one thing we could consider going forward too is, it sounds like for the most part, requests can flow within departments, so flow up to the
Yes.
department heads. But for any residents that might have ideas that may not necessarily fall under a particular department, they can certainly reach out to any of us or to the town administrator's office. And so that way, that's another opportunity for residents to, if they have an idea, and I'm sure there are plenty of
Over the
great
years,
ideas.
they go to Steve with recommendations. We'll call 'em. Not complaints, just recommendations.
Right, so-
Look at the tennis courts, the pickleball courts for Vetsfield. I think
Yeah.
that had a lot to do, lots of people, inquiring directly with Steve's office.
So I think that would be helpful, I think, to answer your inquiry as well. We want to make sure that residents feel like they have a means of if they can't make it to a meeting, for example, but they want to make sure that they have ideas. I think the town administrator's office would be a logical next stop, and certainly that can flow through to the council as well. Councilor Chines.
And just one other point with regard to Councilor Smith Galvin's question. I think it'd be great if meeting minutes could also be put online on the website, just so that information's out there.
We can
so
do that. We can start doing
If
that.
folks can't make it to the meeting, they understand what's been discussed and where you are in the process.
Okay?
Great. Do we have any other questions or comments? Well, with that, Mr. Leone, again, thank you, and thank you, to all of your colleagues for the great work that you're doing. I know that it's a lot of tough choices, and with unlimited resources, you'd love to fulfill all the requests, but I know that there's a lot of prioritizing that goes in, a lot of thought. So I appreciate you coming here and informing us and the public at large, and onward with
We
all
do
your
our
great
best.
work.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Frank.
Thank you.
after the pickleball bocce clips, okay?
Item number 7 on the agenda is
65 feet
appointments.
long by, I think it's 14 feet wide.
Our first appointment is for the Board of Health. This is actually a joint appointment that the Town Council makes along with the Board of Health. So we have 2 members tonight. We have the Chair, Laurel Gorville, as well as Board of Health member Elaine Silva. So good evening and welcome to you both. Thank you. To explain to viewers at home, we have an opening that is it's for a term that runs until April of 2020. We have 5 candidates, which I think is great, and I know that a lot of our candidate outreach, we're trying to get more people involved, and it was a great composition, I think, of resumes that were submitted, really interesting people with great backgrounds, and clearly, from their writings, very eager to serve our town, and I think that was great. So we have 5 members total. I'll turn it over to the Board of Health because I know that you have already met and discussed these candidates and also interviewed them. And so your insights are going to be really helpful in helping us to inform our decision as we do a joint vote.
Okay, so even more impressively, all 5 candidates showed up with only us in Town Hall last Monday night in between storms. So that's how dedicated this group is. And we are a 3-member board, and after meeting all these people, I kind of wish we were a 5-member board. So we had an impressive conversation with several people, one of the candidates here. And I just want to express our thanks and appreciation for everybody putting themselves forward. It was really interesting to have such an opportunity to speak with people with different perspectives. And what we would hope is that after we make our decision tonight, we're going to reach out to every candidate and invite them to continue to follow what's going on with the board. And we certainly have other opportunities, for instance, with our Wake Up group and our Mass in Motion and just meetings in general. So, we're hoping to grow some interest from this experience. So though we miss Allison, this was a growing experience. So I just want to back up a little bit in regards to balance and where we're going with the board. One of the things that we think in the Board of Health that we're beginning to see is something that we call, in the public health parlance, kind of social determinants of health. And certainly in these meetings, we've noticed that there's been some bubbling up of concern of folks with maybe some behavioral health challenges, substance use challenges certainly, and we're addressing that. So looking at what we currently have on the board, with Elaine and I, we were looking, or just sort of observing and recognizing in our conversations with folks last Monday night where that fit might bring us. So with no further ado, we really came to the decision on Candace Linehan, who's a nurse practitioner and someone with her Master's of Public Health, who has real boots on the ground understanding of resources within the region. She's also fairly new to Wakefield, but what is interesting about that is that she immediately saw, when we just sort of put it out there, gee, what would you look at, or what's your impression? She said, transportation's tough here. And it goes right back to social determinants of health, and that we have a main corridor where a bus can go, but unlike in Melrose, where the bus might go through different neighborhoods, we kind of have a straight line. And on that straight line, we have many resources. We have a hospital on the other side. We have our food pantry. We have town hall. But it just struck us that she had that vision immediately. She also speaks several languages. And our health director was also pointing out to us that in her work in restaurant inspection work, there are often different cultures and languages that we come across. So it would certainly be nice to have somebody amongst us who has some skills in that regard. She currently is in East Boston Community Health, and she actually, and she just has a pulse of and a real feeling of what's going on. So, the other candidates were incredible. I know that the application for Anita Laughlin is incredibly impressive. At this point, however, we're thinking that really the understanding of how you get resources to a vulnerable population and that very practical experience may be what balances us out. But again, if you want to make us a 5-member board, we could definitely take all of that. So that's a recommendation we came to, and we're interested to hear your thoughts.
I think you'll notice one thing. I think that, I don't know, many of you know my background. I am officially retired as of 6 weeks ago, but I come from a public health. It's great too, let me tell you. I come from public health. I worked in a major city. I was the director of the public health department and also a school nursing supervisor. I also have had work in the past with this East Boston neighborhood. And I think what Candace brought mostly, which I was just it was so nice to see somebody who was so full of fresh ideas and her insight into things that we don't think of here, like we talked about the transportation. But she has the resources and knows the access routes to get to the problems that a lot of people sometimes, when I speak to here in town, think that we don't have anything because you come from that small little town. Well, it doesn't matter where you are. The social determinants are everywhere, and you're going to see changes more and more. And I think she just brought a whole new insight when she just said, oh, I run, and when I run, I notice this, this, and this. So her powers of observation were wonderful. And as she was running, she was already thinking of solutions or what could she do to help what she saw in the town that she resides in. And I think that's something. And her 2 languages are languages I've dealt with the food industry. She speaks both Spanish and Portuguese, which is a huge amount of the workers in the restaurant business do speak. And it's very much easier to do that instructing and that one-on-one and comfortable when you can speak in their language.
Thank you for that. And I should say that everyone already has these resumes and applications, and anyone watching can also get them online. They're part of our meeting packets available on our town website, so everyone can see. They're really impressive resumes of all
Yeah.
five applicants
very
indeed. So I'll open up first to questions and then comments. So Vice Chair Santos.
Your comment about making it a 5-member board, that, I was on the board for 7 years with you both. And when someone, having 2 members occasionally, that's not even the issue. The issue to me is public health has grown so much and has changed. When I first started on the board to what you have become is just night and day. But that's a charter.
Right.
That's a charter change. So we have to wait for several years, or is that?
We could do it any time, but
It has to go through the charter. I mean, I know you just said that cavalierly, but it really.
No, I mostly meant it. It's lonely. I mean,
You actually.
we can't talk to each other because we would violate
I
any open
remember
meeting
that.
law,
Yeah.
so.
And it's hard because even coming when we were
Yeah.
talking about interviewing, and I said, oh God, Laurel, I hope to God we agree. What are we gonna do, yes and no?
Right.
I oversaw a Board of Health, and
Right.
I think that that's something that's going to come in the next few years in dealing with public health in such a general area in the
Absolutely.
state, is that you have to bring, your Board of Health is your policy making.
Right.
Policies are gonna have to change constantly, and in order to do them, you've got to have that nice board that brings to you all these different aspects, a legal aspect,
That's right.
a medical aspect, an educational. I think that's the way, and I think you have to
agree.
expand the board in order to bring everyone in and really get the opinions and the needs in your community. You have to have it.
I agree. That's something that, I can talk to Steve about, because I think having a 5-member board makes so much sense. Especially after seeing these 5 candidates in there, and I talked
It speaks
about-
to elections
Yeah,
as
yeah.
well. It's amazing when you appoint someone. It's a lot
Right.
easier.
But it's something that is, that the landscape is changing, and the effect that you have in the policymaking that you have beyond any other board in town, frankly, I think really lends itself to having a larger board. After talking with both of you, not together, I think Candace seems to be an excellent choice. And I talked to you about, I know Anita, and Steve will probably agree with me that she's probably one of the smartest people to ever have graduated from Wakefield High School.
in the smartest class.
Close, second smartest. But And I think, in the future, she would be excellent. She might be excellent for other boards, as all of the candidates. I hope that this does not deter them, but I would be in support of Candace based on what you said.
Thank you.
Mr. Mullen, if you could just, I know that it's a process, the idea of the charter change, but I'm sure people are wondering about it at home and maybe even on this. Could you just kind of give just like a brief overview of what that would involve?
Yeah, the easiest route would be for town meeting to vote to propose a change in the charter by a 2/3 vote. And then the proposed change appears on the town ballot
Yeah.
at the next town election. And in advance of the election, we have to send out notice to every household in Wakefield that contains any voters, explaining the choice.
Okay.
Thank you. Further questions or comments? Councilor Chines.
Just a brief comment. First of all, I want to echo what you and others have said. I mean, this was an incredibly impressive group of candidates. And it was gratifying to see the level of interest and the level of interest from individuals who clearly were very, very gifted in participating. And I hope as well as you mentioned, Laurel, that we do see a number of these folks continue to stay involved with the town, and particularly with the work that the Board of Health is doing, because there's clearly a lot of human and intellectual capital there that I'd love to see us benefit from. I'm fully supportive of Candace. Again, one of 5 excellent candidates. I would have been comfortable with any of them on the Board of Health. But agree with you that the background at East Boston Neighborhood Health Center, which as an organization has done so much in a very, very progressive way around thinking of social determinants of health and the impact on communities, to me, I think that's the right mix of experience for the board right now. So I'm supportive of the choice and appreciate the time that both of you have spent interviewing everyone.
I think when there was the presentation before this body several meetings ago, it really just enlightened the community and I'd venture to say this council, just the depth and breadth of the work that the Board of Health does. It just touches so many different aspects of folks' lives within our community. And so the idea of a 3-member body to be doing that work, to your point, if we have the opportunity to have greater specialization, so we can make sure that we expand our focus, because the needs are changing in the community. I think we all realize that. Certainly being able to keep pace with the sorts of changes within the community. I do think that's something that we as a body should seriously consider. Encouraging the movement forward on. A 5-member seems appropriate. One person misses a meeting and you have 2, and that seems a little bit inadequate for.
We all get the flu, exactly.
Right. Even those
Even though we
on the
can
Board of
our
Health,
flu
yes.
shots, but.
So I do think that is
Because we
something.
have licenses to do so.
I would like to recognize all 5 of the candidates so people realize who we're talking about. So there's Thomas Marchant, Candace Linehan, Anita Laughlin, Mary LaRue, and Catherine Messenger. And I think any of them would serve this town in this body well. So with that, and I know everyone has reviewed resumes on our end. Anyone have any other questions? I guess one thing that stood out to me, to Vice Chair Santos's point, Anita Laughlin, she has a very impressive resume as well. Could you just help us understand, what distinguished her in this instance from Candace Linehan?
I think her observation in being in nursing, I think sometimes the observation, but to me, she saw something and she realized that it's a problem and it could escalate. And as she was going through doing her run, she was thinking of how she could help that particular person or that particular thing that she saw. And I think sometimes when you see somebody who's just walking around, they're not on duty, or they're not at a board meeting, or they're not out there on a field trip to look at something, but yet she saw it, but she took it that step further. She already was working on a solution, or how could she get a hold of someone that could help and get the solution? How could she contribute to helping this thing that she saw? And that stood out to me.
Sure.
However, for Dr. Laughlin, again, there were no bad choices here. So I think it's much more about sort of the balance of where we're going right now and some more practical, but I'm hoping that she's agreeable to us reaching out to her from time to time, because I would love to learn more of her expertise. So it's interesting. One of the things that someone had mentioned about being in a board was every so often you want someone who is not entrenched in the policy so that you have fresh eyes on what this means to the person on Main Street. Like, what do you do anyways? And though Candace does have her Master's of Public Health as well, I think because she works in the very clinical area of a vulnerable population, she has more of a pedestrian appreciation, perhaps, because sometimes I think, and again, this goes from 3 to 5 member board, but that's for another meeting. So I think we thought that that's actually a helpful challenge, to kind of give it, to say, gee, hold on, if you're coming from this with a fresh perspective from a different place and you're making comparisons from one community to another, we kind of went that way. I have to say, you could change my, you could argue me into a corner on this, but let's not do that. And so again, it was just much more I don't want to say fit so much, but it just, we had to, we only had one choice. You only gave us one. So that's what we came up with.
And I think the fact that we had 5 people, I was amazed. And I think that 5 people who we did encourage that, there's an election coming up this year, and that you never know when a board member is going to be gone. And I think sometimes when people start to even look at a board like this, they may get interest. It might spark an interest for them to get on something else in town. And I think that blew my mind when I saw 5 of them. I figured there'll be 1 if we're lucky.
I think that says a lot to the level of interest. To your point, this is a post that's only through April potentially.
Yeah.
And so the idea that someone would be coming in for that short period of time, 5 applicants for that one slot, I was really encouraged by that. Indeed.
That's great.
Any other questions or comments? Councilor Butt.
So I just want to echo what everyone said. Thank you so much for taking the time. 5 people in a snowstorm was really appreciative. And I just was going to echo what Elaine beat me to, but I'm just going to reiterate it, is the reason you guys are here is this is different than a lot of our other commissions and boards that we appoint to, where it's a joint, because there is an election in April. And so just to remind everyone that this is a term that goes till April, and then there's an election. And exactly what you said, if people, it's great that people are interested. Both of you had competitive elections your last couple of times, so it's a position more people care about. We really should look at expanding it. But and what the work you're doing, when you all came in here, it's just so important, and it's something I work on in my day job, and then just to come here and see it done. Councillor Smith-Galvin has a great story about when she was walking around one time and talked to a senior woman in town who bought her groceries locally and was walking and noticed, cracks in the sidewalk that nobody else would notice. And that affects, people's life here and their health. And it's really great to have someone that noticed that. And you don't think of people walking up a hill with their groceries so much in Wakefield, but it happens. We all do it. And so I really appreciate that story. Thank you for sharing that.
Welcome. It was a pleasure, I said too. I mean, I interview people, and you have done it too, but when you get 5 people that just had, every one of them had something different, you didn't want them to go home. Each one, I kept on going, oh God, okay, look at this one, and I said, Laurel, okay. But she stuck out. She
We had 15 minutes.
Yeah. So. Wasn't easy, and they were all on time on a snowy night too. That was very impressive to me.
So it sounds like we need a board of 7 then in that case, right?
Yeah.
Just kidding.
5 is good. We'll take
All
5.
right. 5 will be plenty. All right, so with that, I'll entertain a motion then for the appointment of whomever someone wants to nominate.
Candace, I move that we appoint Candace Linehan jointly to the Board of Health.
All right, so the motion then before us is the appointment of Candace Linehan to fill out the remainder of this term that runs through April of 2020. It was made by Vice Chair Santos, seconded by Councilor Chines. Any discussion amongst the 9 of us? All right, seeing none then, the motion that has been seconded is for the appointment of Candace Linehan to fill the remainder of the term through April of 2020 on the Board of Health. And we have, Mr. Mullen, we have 9 of us voting on this, correct?
Excuse me?
9 of us will be voting on this?
All 9,
Yes, so of the 9 of us, all those in favor?
Aye.
It's unanimous, 9-0.
Excellent.
Congratulations to Candace Linehan, and thank you to the other 4 applicants, and we're sure that they'll be a part of our community and volunteering in other ways.
Thank
very
you.
much.
And thank you both for all your
Thank you
time and
both.
dedication.
As always.
As always.
Item 7B on the agenda is the town council to authorize Madam Clerk to post or advertise for election town meeting workers. We had a request from our town clerk, Betsy Sheeran. She had asked that we post this. We have, I believe, Mr. Mayo, an unlimited number that we can appoint. But we have a number of special elections coming up, primaries and the like in 2020. So we want to make sure that we have a lot of, fully staffed and a lot of people at the ready. And so we would post this, and then we would be voting on it at the next meeting on January 13th of next year. So with that, I'll entertain a motion. Moved by
Second.
Counselor Donaco, seconded by Vice Chair Santos. Any discussion? Seeing none, then the motion before you is for the posting, the authorization to post and advertise for election town meeting workers. All of those in favor?
Aye.
The vote is 7-0. That motion carries unanimously. Thank you. Item number 8 on the agenda is a series of licenses, the first of which is a change of manager license. This is for CMRG LLC, doing business as Tono Wakefield. A vote is anticipated. I should point out, all of these licenses are in the packets, again, that are online through our town website. I know the council has reviewed them. So with that, I'll entertain a motion for the appointment, or the approval of the change of manager application for CMRG LLC, doing business as Tono Wakefield.
So moved.
Moved by Vice Chair Santos, seconded by Councilor Donaco. Any discussion? Just confirming, Madam Clerk, they have complied with all the necessary requirements, correct?
Yes, correct.
Right, okay. So with that, all those in favor?
Aye.
Vote of 7-0. Item 8B is renewal of a number of applications. These are common victular renewal application licenses. And we have in total, we have 14 in total that are before this body tonight. Again, they're described in our packets. And with that, Madam Clerk, we'll have 10 outstanding. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay. So I will entertain a motion for the approval of these renewal applications for 14 common victular licenses.
So moved with just a suggestion. It's 15?
It's 14.
Okay. It says 15 here? No?
Yeah.
Oh, the-
Phuket was done last.
It's been
Oh,
updated.
sorry.
Yeah,
Oh,
it's
No.
been updated, yeah.
Updated.
I thought I printed
It
the
had been
updated
15,
one.
now it's
I'm
14.
so sorry.
That's
No worries.
okay.
Okay. I move that we approve the 14 common victual licenses as listed in the packet, as posted online.
Try to say victular
No, I
14
can't.
times,
It's
right?
honestly, it's one of those words that just sticks.
That should be a charter change right there.
It should be a charge.
Indeed. All right, so a move by Vice Chair Santos, seconded by Councilor Donaco. Any discussion? Seeing none, the motion before you is the approval of the renewal of 14 victular licenses for the local businesses as detailed in the packets and available online. All those in favor?
Aye.
Vote of 7-0, the motion carries unanimously. Next set of licenses is liquor renewal licenses.
Motion to move the slate, Mr. Chair.
Second.
We have 18 total. So motion for all 18 made by Councilor Donaco, seconded by Councilor Butt. Any discussion? Councilor Chines.
Just a quick question. I recall, Mr. Mayo, that you had informed us probably a month or two ago that D&M Liquors and Prachi Corporation had been under investigation by the ABCC. Do we have a
Yes,
status
we have
on
no
where that
status.
is?
No status,
Okay.
sorry.
So similar to sort of other licenses,
Right.
you know, the idea would be we would grant the license, and then depending on the outcome of
Exactly.
the ABC work.
Okay.
Exactly.
Thank you.
Sure. further questions? All right, seeing none then, the motion before you is the approval of the liquor license renewal applications as identified in the packets. I should point out that this makes us complete with the renewal process.
Yes.
Yes.
Great.
All right, so it's been motioned and seconded. All those in favor? Vote is 7-0, the motion carries unanimously.
Mr. Chairman, can I just say that
Yes.
Sherry did yeoman's work on this section in particular, and I would say that it's all licenses all the time in the office lately. And it's amazing to me that we have to reach out numerous times to some of these establishments, including personal visits, to make sure they get their licenses in. So she did a great job, so thank you.
Indeed.
Yeah.
I'll say, I've been in the office sometimes and seen people
Yes,
come
you
in with the
have.
licenses, and
Yes.
it's
a
a lot of
process.
work, and
It is,
yes,
yeah,
I think we all echo Mr. Mayo's thanks for that.
Once we should just let it go by without going after them and let them realize that they don't have a valid license and go up to them and say, you can't serve alcohol until you come before us now. They'll only do that once.
Once, I know,
And
I
they'll
agree.
never, ever let their license lapse again. They'll lose too much money.
I know, great.
The next item we have is item 8D, lodging house renewal application. We have one application for Wakefield House. This would complete the lodging house renewal application process. I'll entertain a motion for the approval.
Second?
Moved by Counselor Donaco, seconded by Vice Chair Santos. Any discussion? Seeing none, the approval per motion before you is for Wakefield House, a lodging house renewal application. All those in favor? 7-0, the motion carries unanimously. The next motion is the renewal of entertainment licenses. We have 8 applications, leaving 2 outstanding at this point. I'll entertain a motion for the approval of these 8 renewal applications.
Motion to move the slate.
Second?
Motion by Counselor Donaco, seconded by Vice Chair Santos. Any discussion? Seeing none, the motion before you is the approval of 8 entertainment renewal application licenses. All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries 7-0. Next, item 8, we're at 8E now. Excuse me. Automatic amusement renewal application. We have one, Wakefield Bolodrome, and with that, that would make the slate complete. I'll entertain a motion for the approval of this renewal.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Vice Chair Santos, seconded by Counselor Smith-Galvin. Any discussion? Seeing none, the motion before you is the approval of the automatic amusement renewal application for Wakefield Bolodrome. All those in favor?
Aye.
7-0. Get bowling. Next is the renewal applications for Class 2 automobile facilities. These are approved by the Wakefield Police Department. We have 6 before us, but we have 27 outstanding. So before we get to the point of the approval or the motion and potential approval, Mr. Mayo, could you explain why we have the 27 still outstanding?
Well, I mean, a lot of these are non-display, so they're people that go to auctions, and sometimes they don't come in until they go to the auction, so are they really late? I mean, I'd like to say they're late, and maybe we'll have a bylaw that will say they're late in the future, but that's what they do, they'll wait till they come in to go to the auctions, and they'll come in later on.
So-
Even though they've been reached out to as well, but I don't have the same level of care, I guess, as I do with our food establishments.
But they technically don't need that approval until they go to auction.
Technically, they go to auction. yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
And why is it that the police approved this?
The fingerprinting.
Oh, it's a
bylaw.
fingerprinting issue, okay. Thank you.
Any other further questions on that? All right, so I'll entertain a motion for the approval of these 6 Class 2 renewal applications as approved already by our Wakefield Police Department.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Vice Chair Santos, seconded by Counselor Donaco. Any discussion? Seeing none, the motion before you is the approval of these 6 Class 2 renewal applications. All those in favor? Vote 7-0. Motion carries unanimously. And finally, we have a Class 1 renewal application, also as approved by the Police Department. There are 3, Liberty Chevrolet Inc., Liberty Isuzu Truck, and Liberty Mazda. That will then leave 2 outstanding. Mr. Mayo, any update as to the 2
They
outstanding?
haven't come in.
Yeah.
Okay.
Despite the fact that they've been.
Multiple times
Multiple
it's been
times.
reached out to.
Yeah.
Oh, definitely.
Madam Clerk,
yeah.
right?
Oh, yes.
All right, so I'll entertain a motion for the approval of the 3 Class 1 renewal applications as already approved by the Wakefield Police Departments.
So moved.
Moved by Vice Chair Santos, seconded by Councilor Donaco. Any discussion? Seeing none, the motion before you is the approval of the 3 Class 1 renewal application licenses. All those in favor? Okay, vote of 7-0. The motion carries unanimously. Thank you all for that. Item number 11 on the agenda is constituent issues. This provides the opportunity for members of the council to raise any issues that have been brought to their attention by constituents. These are not agenda items. They will not be voted on this evening, but if warranted, they may be added on a future agenda. With that, does anyone have any constituent issues they wanted to raise this evening? Councilor Butt.
I just had one story, and I talked to Steve a little bit about it. He can give an update, but I had a 5.5-year-old constituent come up to me with a concern. She called her town councilor, and I went and made a house visit. She goes to the Dolbear, and we've had construction on Lowell Street at her intersection, and she wanted to know now that the street had been repaved when the crosswalk was going to go back, because her and her classmates didn't know where they could cross, and it's not safe. And I asked Steve about it, and we have a response that I can get back to the constituent.
It's actually a better response than I gave you before. So it was painted temporarily, and that kind of goes when it first happened, and we were gonna do it permanently, but weather has come into play and sometimes, so hopefully, if we get some cooperation this week, it'll be handled this week. If not, as soon as the weather is good, so we're working on it. But thank you for bringing that out. I
Yeah,
appreciate it.
well, and as I told the 5.5-year-old, I don't go to that part of town every day, and I don't walk there, so I wasn't aware of it. So I appreciate her bringing it to our attention.
Thank you for that. Councilor Chine?
Mayor, just a question on that. So in a circumstance where weather prohibits us from painting a crosswalk, do we have like temporary signage that we're able to put up or
Well,
something?
there is already a flashing thing there.
Okay.
And it's somewhat there. It's
Okay.
not as good as it could be, but it'll be better.
Got it.
So yes, if it was a long way and we wanted to,
Yeah,
absolutely.
but there's at least something
Yeah,
there,
yeah.
so it's, got it.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Anything further? All right, seeing nothing further, we'll move on to item number 12, Chairman's comments. I just have 3 items that I wanted to raise with the body and the community. The first being the Public Safety Building Reassessment Committee. We had our most recent meeting last week. There is a very robust information outreach initiative that is underway. Our content and communications manager, Jen McDonald, has done a great job, as has the subcommittee working on that. To give everyone an update in terms of timeline, it is anticipated that building would come before town meeting in the spring. And prior to that, I would say probably beginning sometime in, the target is around March 1st. There would be a series of public outreach initiatives. They'll include public forums, a lot of social media, a lot of print information, just giving information so people have a full understanding, so that when people are making the decision on in a very consequential decision at that, they're fully informed. And so I wanted to thank the ongoing work. I mean, the Public Safety Building Reassessment Committee, Steve, we've been going at this, I think, over a year now.
Yeah.
We've had really dedicated folks who have looked at this from every single angle possible. And I think we've left no stone unturned in terms of approaching it creatively in every way that we can. And so I'm proud of the work that has been done, and I think that the information that will be coming out will be really helpful for the community, because informed decisions are always the best ones, and I think we're going to get there with that. Secondly, I just wanted to mention that recently at a WAVE meeting, the Wakefield Alliance Against Violence, there had been a discussion about a really neat initiative for all of our students, and this goes from grades 1 all the way through 12th grade. And it's actually called the 2019 through 2020 PSA and Poster Project Respectfully. And it's a project that is actually comes out of the governor's office in partnership with the Executive Office of Health and Human Services and the Massachusetts State Legislature, and it's intended to promote healthy relationships. And it is an opportunity for students within our district, both in the public schools and also the private schools, to create a poster project. There are 3 divisions: elementary, middle, and high school. The deadline for submission is January 31st. More information is available on Facebook at WAVE's Facebook page, and Wave is actually giving prizes to the winners. So anyone that wants to make a submission, it should be, I believe, on the bottom of your screen now, Wave, WAAV, cares @gmail.com. If you could pass along to your children or for our young constituents who might be watching, to be aware that that's an opportunity for them. And again, that contest runs until January 31st. And the winners will be acknowledged here at one of our future town council meetings as well. So it's a really great opportunity to encourage students to be thinking about respect within and how to make sure they have healthy relationships with one another. And finally, I wanted to give an update on the Envision Wakefield Downtown Revitalization Project. As I had mentioned a few meetings ago, there is a meeting at Mass DOT on the 19th of this month. The expectation is that we, meaning VHB, the engineering design firm that we've been working with and been a part of our town for many years, will have greater guidance from Mass DOT in terms of next steps. VHB has been trying to incorporate as much as possible the feedback we've gotten thus far on some very preliminary designs and concepts, and refining, based upon community input. And after that, after the 19th, we'll have some further answers to questions that were open questions to Mass DOT. So the expectation is that in the latter part of January, we'll begin again a series of public forums to be able to provide the answers to those open questions. Mass DOT will give us more guidance, and our goal is to move us with those additional public forums and public participation to a 25% design phase, so that we'll be to the point there where we can be on the TIPS list for funding and make sure that we can move that along. One interesting avenue that Mr. Mayo and I have been pursuing is there's one aspect of the Envision Wakefield project, the Albion Street corridor, that has the opportunity to potentially be part of a MassWorks project. So we could potentially carve that out, which would enable us to be able to receive the state funding, but do that aspect of the project even faster. There weren't a lot of changes to Albion Street, substantive changes. It was more bump outs, safety, crossings, treescapes and the like. But if we have the opportunity to do that, would be able to move that aspect along faster and get it done quicker. We likely would have phasing regardless, but it would be a unique way. So Mr. Mayo and I, the last few months, have been kind of working through the state agencies relative to that, and our hope is that that's something that we could explore as an opportunity as well. And with that, those are my comments. If no questions, we'll move on to item number 13. No. All right. Item number 13 is public hearing. D&M Liquors, we need to set a public hearing. The proposal would be to set the public hearing for January 13th of 2020, beginning at 7:05 p.m. And I'll entertain and this relates to the transfer of stock.
So moved. Second.
Moved by Councilor Donaco, seconded by Vice Chair Santos. Any discussion? All right, seeing none, the motion before you is simply the setting of a public hearing for our next meeting, January 13th, 2020, at 7:05 p.m. for the transfer of stock of D&M Liquors. All those in favor? Aye. The vote is 7-0. The motion carries unanimously. Item number 14 is matters not anticipated for the agenda. These are any matters that may have come up within the last 48 hours and therefore were not able to be includable on the agenda and still meet open meeting law requirements. So are there any this evening? All right, seeing none. Item number 15 is announcements and acknowledgements. This is the opportunity for town councilors, Madam Clerk, Mr. Mayo, and Mr. Mullen to offer any announcements or acknowledgements relative to the town. Councilor Donaco.
I'll start it off. I'm going to throw on different hats. Representing the Wakefield Community Partnership, I just want to express thanks to this body and all of the subsequent bodies that help support putting on the event this past Saturday. The DPW did a great job once again, Fire Department, Police Department, Dennis Fazio's group. Nothing but praise for the support that we get from the town on putting on the events. A little chilly this year. Numbers were slightly down. It didn't deter the hardy group that was out going from one end of the town to the other. I haven't had that much feedback yet, but we plan on doing a survey just to see pros and cons of the event, what's missing, what should be eliminated, what should be gained. So it's, next year should be an interesting year with a little more thought going into the future as far as how we take care of events and activities that promote the community and the enhance the opportunities of the businesses in the downtown area, or wherever we have a pop-up here or there. With a little support from the town administrator, we may be creative in where we set up additional activities to promote other neighborhoods. But takes a cooperation, takes the village to make the issue happen. So again, kudos to the entire board of directors of the WCP. They did a great job on putting together another successful event. Santa Claus was a big hit, no matter where he went. Santa Claus, very, very nice job of taking care of the kids and the adults. Yeah, many pictures were taken. But with that, thank you to this board for granting approval to another successful event. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Dodako. Vice Chair Santos.
A couple of things. I had the opportunity and I saw Maureen there at the Hartshorn House yesterday. It was a lovely event, really packed. I ran into my junior high Spanish teacher, Irene Chandler, which was lovely, and a lot of other people we know. They put on a great event. And I know Maureen and Julie can pop in with regard to Wreaths Across America, but I have it in my calendar that they're laying the wreaths at Forest Glade at noon?
Noon on Saturday.
Noon on Saturday, which I think would be a great opportunity for folks to come in and support that program, that they can talk about how successful we were this year. And Holiday Stroll was great. Thank you, Paul. It was a nice event. That's it.
Thank you, Vice Chair Santos. Councilor
I have
Smith-Galvin.
a couple of things. So last Wednesday, Mr. Mayowa and I attended the opening of Glance Networks, which is a new company that has just come to Wakefield. They're over in the Harvard Mills, right next to the downtown Wakefield train station. And their story is really fascinating, and I just wanted to share it with you all because I think it proves our thesis, and hopefully we can attract more. So they're about 50 people in their company, about 15 million, I think, in revenues, the CEO said. CEO lives in Portsmouth. They have previously had space in Arlington, and when they outgrew that, they looked all over the region, and they said they saw a lot of, very bland buildings all over the region, but when they saw the mill, they were in a mill in Arlington, they really loved the mill. But what they really loved was the public transportation here in Wakefield. And so they, the CEO lives in Portsmouth. He doesn't have to trek all the way into Arlington. He has a lot of, younger, just starting family employees who are living in the city or living along the train line and coming in on the train. It was really a great story. In fact, their Christmas party this year, their holiday party, they are working all day and then getting on the train and going to Boston for their holiday party. So they are really taking advantage of it. It is a great story. I actually had never been in Harvard Mills. What a beautiful building. And I'm really excited by everything that's happening in that area. So hopefully we can keep them engaged and share their story. So I just wanted to share that with you because I really think we've all worked hard on a lot of things that build into that. I don't know whether you have anything to add.
I was gonna say, they were looking to double their employee base over the
Okay.
next 18 months, which I thought was great.
missed that.
They loved the downtown. They loved walking from the mill building to the restaurants, and the CEO was fascinating because he talked about how they looked around and did all that, and the whole reverse commuting. It was really great. It was, we felt really good when we left there.
You knew everything about the rail trail.
Yeah.
Really?
Super excited by that. So that was a great story. And similarly, I think the next day we were, Ann Santos and Steve and I went and we met with Secretary Theo Harides, who's the Secretary of Energy, and she was talking about the Transportation Climate Initiative, which is going to be similar to a program that's already in place for electricity in the region, but essentially it's going to be a cap and trade or a cap and invest that's really going to bring in a lot of revenue, we hope, and investment in transportation. And so Steve was able to share a little bit of the stories and what we've seen there. So really, it was a good week last week, kind of putting those together. just a few other small things. The Wakefield Gas and Light asked that I share with all of you, and you may have gotten an invitation from Sherry. They're holding a breakfast on December 17th at 7:30 a.m. to celebrate 125 years. So we can congratulate them for that, and hopefully we can attend. And then, as we saw, a lot of athletes here earlier today. I'm pretty sure the winter season starts this week. My daughter, I'll put my mom hat on, like Paul puts on his Wakefield Community hat. So my daughter's the manager for the wrestling, and they are holding a fundraiser at the dockside tomorrow night. And I'm sure all of the sports are, so go out and support our local Wakefield sports.
Thank you, Councilor Smith-Galvin. Councilor Chines.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. First of all, just want to echo the congratulations to all of the organizations that had holiday events this weekend in Wakefield. I mean, it was such a great weekend to celebrate the holidays in Wakefield, between the holiday stroll, which was incredible, the Hartshorn House Association event, which unfortunately I wasn't able to make it to, but heard great things. WCNA's Lighting of the Lights on Friday night was another nice little event. And there was also the annual dinner at the Harts Hill Heights holiday dinner for the residents there, organized by Sarchine Rizzuto. Amy Lomanak and Councilor Budd as well has been involved from the beginning there. So lots of great activities this weekend. Again, good time to be in Wakefield. I did want to add one more if folks aren't tired of the holiday stuff yet. Holiday a cappella at the Albion Culture Exchange is coming up next week on the 19th from 6 to 8, which should be a great time. And then finally, just wanted to mention to folks in town that I am having my monthly office hours this coming Wednesday from 5 to 7 at the library. So look forward to seeing folks there.
Thank you, Councilor Chines.
Thank you.
Councilor Butt.
So just a few announcements. It's hard to think about gardening with all the snow on the ground, but just a reminder that we were fortunate to get an earmark in the state budget for $50,000 to create a community garden and or community gardens, plural. And so there's an info session. Come ask your questions, get your questions answered by Steve and Dan McGrath and others. 12/17, which is next Tuesday at 7 p.m. at night. So come and think about in March what our community gardens will look like. And as this is our last meeting of 2019, just want to wish everyone happy holidays, Merry Christmas, Happy Hanukkah, have a safe New Year.
Thank you, Councilor Butt. Anyone else? Okay. I'll just echo what others have already said. It was a great weekend to be in Wakefield. Lighting of the lights was a fantastic event. It was so well attended. All different ages, lots of kids, and we had snow. It was like just Norman Rockwell-esque. It was perfect. It looked great. Saturday, Wakefield Community Partnership Holiday Stroll. Great job by everyone. I know that's a Herculean effort that to put that together, and it was a great event. So Paul and everyone involved, thank you for all of your hard work on that. Hartshorn House on Sunday. I saw Councilor Smith-Galvin there. That's a great event. The Colonel was there. I mean, it doesn't get better than that. And the Harts Hill dinner as well on Harts Hill Heights dinner on last night was a great event, well attended, and a lot of smiles on a lot of faces, which is a great thing, certainly. And I also want to recognize Wakefield football as well. They had a solid season of 6-5, and they went against a really tough competitor on Thanksgiving. And it wasn't just the elements that was competitive, that was hard. It was, they had a tough team, and I know Melrose went on to go further as well, and they had a great season. But our Warriors did a great job, so congratulations to the whole team on that, and congratulations. Everyone was a Warrior who was out there in those elements on Thanksgiving, but thank you for that. And with that, our next meeting will be on January 13th of 2020 at 7 p.m. I just want to wish everyone, again, because it's our last, a very, very Merry Christmas, a Happy Hanukkah, Happy Holidays, and Happy New Year. And I will entertain a motion to adjourn for this meeting and for 2019.
So moved.
Second.
All right. Moved by Vice Chair Santos, seconded by Councilor Donaco. All those in favor?
Aye.
And with that, we end the year, and we thank all of you for watching, and we look forward to many great things in the year ahead. Thank you, and good night.